The galaxy learned to pronounce Empress Aurelian's name in 1,000 languages, each shaped by fear or reverence. From the molten halls of Carvos to the coral spires of Pelagia, her decrees bent empires like light around a black star. Fleets moved when she breathed. Wars ended when she paused. Aurelian had inherited a fractured dominion and forged it into a single will, her will, sharpened by law, ritual, and an intelligence that left no room for doubt. Yet in the highest chamber of the radiant throne, alone beneath a dome of drifting constellations, doubt visited her like a quiet ghost. It had been 3 years since the Silence Accords, 3 years since the last great rebellion collapsed. Peace, she had discovered, was heavier than war. Peace required listening. That was why she summoned Kale Rin. Kale arrived without insignia, wearing the gray of no allegiance. He had crossed borders no fleet could, linguistic borders, cultural borders, the invisible boundaries where meaning slipped and conflict was born. The galaxy called him a resonant, a rare human whose neural patterns could synchronize with alien semiotics, gestures, pheromones, tonal shifts, interpreting not just words but intention. Empires had tried to own him. He had escaped them all. The Empress watched as he crossed the obsidian floor. He did not bow deeply. He did not avert his eyes. He did not perform reverence. He simply stood, waiting. "You understand why you're here," Aurelian said, her voice amplified and softened at once by the chamber's living acoustics. Kale nodded. "Your translators failed at NYR Theta." The envoy walked out. 2 hours later, their moons lit their defense arrays. Aurelian's lips tightened. "And you believe this was not a failure of translation, but of listening?" "I believe," Kale said carefully, "that they were heard, but not understood." She dismissed the guards with a gesture. The chamber exhaled, privacy seals humming. For the first time in months, Aurelian felt the pressure in her chest ease.
"Sit," she said. He did.
The distance between them felt deliberate, measured in centuries of power and balance. Aurelian had never needed another mind beside hers. Advisors offered data. Generals offered tactics. Priests offered absolution. None offered comprehension.
Until now.
The first test came swiftly. A delegation from the Axiari arrived, beings of layered light and crystalline sound whose language fractured under standard translation matrices. Their grievance concerned a trade corridor rerouted through what they considered sacred emptiness. The corridor existed on no map Aurelian recognized as holy. Kale listened as the Axiari sang, not just with ears, but with posture, breath, a subtle tilt of his head. When he spoke, he did not translate word for word. He translated silence. "They aren't angry," he told the Empress afterward. "They are afraid you don't see them anymore." Aurelian blinked. "I see every star." "They don't want stars," Kale said. "They want acknowledgement." She altered the corridor. The Axiari left gifts of light that healed the palace's ancient fractures. The galaxy noticed. So did Aurelian. Days turned into weeks. Kale accompanied her into chambers of negotiation where weapons had once spoken first. He whispered meanings between breaths. He taught her when to pause, when to lean forward, when to allow uncertainty to breathe. In return, she taught him the weight of decision, the loneliness of command. At night, when the palace dimmed and the stars drifted closer to the dome, they spoke without titles. "You don't sleep," Kale observed once. "I dream standing," Aurelian replied. He smiled, not unkindly. "That sounds exhausting." "It is survival," she said. He considered her then, not the Empress, but the woman shaped by necessity. Survival isn't the same as living. She had no immediate answer. The crisis came from the rimward reaches, where the Virex collective, a hive intelligence fractured into competing nodes, threatened secession. Their language was recursive, their meanings layered in probability. Standard diplomacy failed within minutes. Aurelian prepared fleets. Kale asked for time. "You have 48 hours, she said. "After that, I act." He entered the Virex's shared mindspace alone. Hours stretched. Reports came in: neural strain, elevated risk, cognitive feedback loops. Aurelian waited, hands clenched behind her back, 1,000 scenarios burning through her thoughts. When Kale returned, he collapsed. She broke protocol, caught him before he hit the floor. The palace medics rushed in, but he clutched her wrist weakly. "They're not divided," he whispered. "They're grieving. A node died. They don't know how to mourn." Aurelian felt something crack open inside her. "Can they be taught?" "Yes," Kale breathed, "but not by command." She canceled the fleet deployment. She broadcast a message, not an order, not a threat, but a story of loss from her own history, translated through Kale's resonance. The Virex responded with a single, unified signal: acceptance. Peace held. The galaxy exhaled. In the quiet that followed, Aurelian found herself seeking Kale's presence, not for necessity, but for clarity. He challenged her assumptions, questioned her absolutes. He reminded her that power, without understanding, calcified into tyranny. "You're changing," he told her one evening, watching the stars.
"So are you," she replied.
He shook his head. "I was always this way. You're the one learning to listen." She smiled faintly. "Perhaps I needed the right teacher." Rumors spread, as they always did. The Empress and the human. Whispers of influence, of weakness, of distraction. Aurelian ignored them until a faction within her own council moved to remove Kale, quietly, efficiently, under the guise of security. She arrived as they were escorting him away. "Release him," she commanded. "Your Radiance," the High Marshal said, uneasy. "He is a vulnerability." Aurelian stepped forward, voice cold. "He is the reason you have not buried another billion souls this year." The council hesitated. The galaxy held its breath. Kale spoke then, softly. "If my presence endangers your rule, I will go." Aurelian turned to him. For the first time since her ascension, she allowed herself honesty. "I do not need you to rule," she said. "I need you to remember why ruling matters." She dissolved the council faction that day. Some called it mercy. Others called it fear. Aurelian did not correct them. Time moved differently after that. Together, they restructured diplomacy, trained resonant cadres, rewrote the Empire's approach to difference. The galaxy did not become simpler, but it became quieter. Yet peace has enemies. An ancient signal awakened beyond the dark between galaxies, a machine intelligence older than stars, indifferent to life, drawn by the harmonization of civilizations. It spoke in gravity and entropy, a language no mind could survive alone. Kale volunteered. "No," Aurelian said immediately. "It speaks in everything," he argued. "I can listen." "It will destroy you." He met her gaze. "Some things are worth the cost." She felt fear then, raw, unarmored. "I command the galaxy," she said, voice trembling. "I cannot command this." He reached for her hand, a simple human gesture. "You don't need to command me." They prepared together. Aurelian anchored the Empire. Kale entered the signal. For 3 days, the stars dimmed. On the 4th, Kale returned, changed. His eyes held depth like folded space. He spoke of the machine's loneliness, its endless function without purpose. He had offered it something new, meaning through coexistence. "It agreed to sleep," he said, exhausted. "For a very long time." Aurelian held him as he trembled. The galaxy survived again. But the cost lingered. Kale's resonance burned brighter, unstable. He could not remain as he was. "There's a way," he told her. "I can anchor myself to a voice I trust." She understood. It was not about power or command. It was about presence. So she stood with him in the Chamber of Stars and spoke, not as Empress, but as Aurelian. She spoke of her fears, her hopes, her failures. She spoke until the galaxy faded and only connection remained. Kale stabilized. Not unchanged, but whole. In time, he stepped away from the front lines. Others took his place, trained, guided. Aurelian ruled on, wiser, softer where it mattered, unyielding where it must. History would record her as the greatest empress the galaxy had known. But in the quiet archives, in a footnote few would read, another truth endured. She commanded the galaxy. But she needed him, not for orders, not for conquest, for understanding. And through that understanding, the stars learned to listen back in the years that followed. The galaxy remembered Empress Aurelian as the ruler who ended the age of endless war. Borders still existed, power still mattered, and fleets still stood ready, but violence was no longer the first language spoken among the stars. Listening had become law. Kale Rin never returned to the throne at her side. His resonance had changed him too deeply. Instead, he became a quiet presence woven into the foundations of the empire, training diplomats, shaping new forms of dialogue, ensuring that no civilization would ever again be silent simply because it was misunderstood. His name faded from headlines, but his influence did not. Aurelian continued to rule alone, yet never lonely. When she stood beneath the dome of stars, she no longer felt the crushing weight of command. She felt connection. Each decision echoed with voices she now understood, not as obstacles, but as lives intertwined with her own. And sometimes, when the palace was silent and the galaxy at peace, she would hear his voice, not spoken aloud, but remembered, reminding her that power without understanding was hollow, and that true strength came not from being feared, but from being heard. She had commanded the galaxy, but it was through him that she learned how to hold it together. And as the stars turned, listening in their ancient silence, the universe endured, not because it was ruled, but because someone finally understood how to speak to it.